Two hands here. Both hands are from mid position, and both hands I Cbet turn and got raised. Hand number one's 25 NL game. I've got ace 5 of spades. So I open raise. I think that's just fine. It's allowing me to expand the range of hands that I'm playing. So if I'm in early position, I don't always have premiums. And I get called by the cutoff. The cutoff, I only have 7 hands. He's played 14 hands right now. Or he's played 7 hands and he's 14%. Hasn't 3-bet. So we're just gonna kind of go for a somewhat of a default range. So normally I see pocket pairs being called. I think most of these queens, kings, and aces will raise. Ace king raises. At a 25 NL game, I think typically ace queen would raise in this spot as well. I think jacks would raise. Calling, I think possibly all of these suited aces. I guess first is an unknown. Those 2s to 5, ace 2 to ace 5 suited might actually raise, but we're going to take out these offsuits because they don't typically just call with those. I think your connectors may call. I think if I'm under the gun, he tightens up a little bit more, but I think we're at 14.9% right now. The king queen, he might be raising king queen suited or an ace jack suited and then just calling with a king queen. That might be a pretty good start. So ace 5, we're going to be down near the bottom of the range. Just be aware that we're not going to be at the top of his range, but at the same time we know that he's not going to have a lot of these premiums up there. So if kings or queen, if a king or a queen hits, it's very likely that he missed completely. So he was the only caller, and then we see a queen 10-5 flop. All different suits, and as we just said, that range is going to miss a lot. He does have a king queen in his range, queen jack, but I think we safely assume he doesn't have ace queen, he doesn't have king queen, he doesn't have queens, he might have tens. So we flopped our bottom, and the question is, should we bet or fold? And I think this is a good c-bet. We've got some. We can probably get called by like king jack. Probably get called by maybe a 10 jack, maybe 10-9, at least once. And we're also kind of hoping that he folds all the other hands that have equity against us. I do think if he calls, it's going to be maybe these middle pair plus. So the tens include possible straight gut shot draws or backdoor draws. I think he can call the gut shot open-ended straight draw. So calling about 50%, he's folding about 50%. So my bet is going to should show some auto profit. So I bet half pot, and I think that's okay because I think the range that he folds to half pot is going to be the same range that he folds to 2/3 pot. I don't think he's going to adjust it too much because in his mind, I could also have ace king and miss this board. So I bet he calls, so I'm going to leave this here, and you can see now our equity dropped. And then all of a sudden we hit the ace of diamonds on the turn. And that looks pretty good. So with the ace of diamonds, we now have 2 pair. Should we bet or should we just check? And I think we should probably check, planning to call if he bets. I think if we bet, we're going to fold out a lot of hands that we'd rather have him call. So if he called with the middle pair with like a king, queen, queen, jack, if we bet half pot or 2/3, he may think that ace now just hit us, so he's going to fold. I think he's going to fold his weak pairs as well. And I think those are the hands that we would like for him to call. Top pair, ace jack, I think he's going to call. So I don't think he's going to fold that. So we're looking at, he'll call the flush draw. I don't think he'll call with all of his gut shots anymore. So if I check, he has all of this range in there, and I got 54% equity. And whatever happens on the turn, if let's say turn is a 6, then I do think he's going to call the middle pair for one more bet, and maybe even the weak pair for one more bet. So we're kind of setting up a situation where we can check and then get paid by worse. If we bet now and he calls, you can see that we're only 30% equity from that call because he has top pair, 2 pair, but he also has his sets and straights there. So based on this range, I do think we should check. I didn't. I bet half pot, and then he raised. So now once he raised, what is he raising with? I don't think he's raising with any of his draws. He might raise with top pair, but I don't know. I don't know why. He's got some kicker issues. So ace jack. 2 pairs a possibility, but I do think when he raises, and especially when he raises this amount, I think he's hoping to get called. So he's probably doing it with the straight. I think if he raises with a set or with 2 pair, he's going to raise up to, let's say, 21. So 3 times my bet, hoping that, if I have ace king or ace jack or king queen, that I just go ahead and fold, because again, players want to bull you out. They don't want you to draw, even though you're the underdog, or even though they're the favorite. So I do think, if we give him consideration that he has a set, or even if he has 2 pair, when you look at his 2 pair is going to be better than us. So when he bet this much, I do think we should probably fold. We need 17% equity. We're only at 13. We should fold. I didn't fold. I called, and then the 4 of clubs hits, and he checks behind. And that's kind of interesting. So when he checks behind at that point, I don't think the straight's going to check, but I do think sets and 2 pair are going to check behind. And that's when I called. I think all that we can do is just check, and probably plan to check call. But again, I do think we're going to have to fold. I think we got lucky that we didn't have to call anymore. So what did he have? He showed, is that pocket 5s? Pocket 5s. So he had part of that straight. I think that was a little bit shocking. Once he checked, I just kind of knew he must have had a set. So we can make a note on this player that he raised turn, min raised turn. Oops, it's here. Min raised turn with trips on draw E board. So that way we know if he does this min raise again, it doesn't necessarily mean that he has a big hand hoping to get called. He may be making that check raise thinking he might actually be behind. All right, so let me close this hand out and get hand number 2. All right, so hand number 2 is pocket kings. So under the gun raises. Now I have almost 400 hands on him. He is playing 14-10. As an under the gun raiser, I do think he's going to be fairly tight. Maybe something like that. That's 5%. Let's check his stats. So it'll be raised first in from early positions, 9%, so 7 out of 78. Maybe ace 10. Maybe those, maybe 8. I mean, that gets a little bit better. Maybe all of ace jack and king queen. I just don't think everyone raises like that. It's hard to actually judge based on the hands, but I think this is definitely easy. I do notice that when players call, or when they play from early position, it's not very likely that they have king queen offsuit. Especially when those hands are shown, I don't see king queen offsuit. All right, so my pocket kings is going to be ahead. Really, it's only behind by aces. So I raise, I 3-bet to 10 big blinds. And is that a good decision? We're doing it for value. He's folded to 3-bets 2/3 of the time. I don't think we should worry so much about it. We're 3-betting because we don't want to take this hand multi-way. And when you look at multi-way, how often players cold call, I mean, this isn't. I think if I call, at least one of these players is going to call behind us. At least one. So raising it, I think we're raising for value and raising to try to get heads up because our hand is so strong. And he does call. So when we 3-bet, what hands is he just going to call? I think maybe ace queen is going to call. I think maybe those hands are just going to fold. And we could probably suggest that king queen, queen jack, and jack 10 suited might also go ahead and fold it. So let's say he only calls with those. Ace jack suited, king queen suited, and his pocket pair. So you can see we're 70%, or about 70%. Flop comes 8 high, and he checks to us, which I expect him to do with basically his entire range. No big surprise. So when we look at this, this doesn't figure to hit him at all. He's just going to have, if he has his overpairs, I mean, that's what he has. So our decision is, should we bet or should we check? I think you can make an argument for both things. I do think checking is a little suspicious because if we check here when this is such a dry board, I think he'll probably get suspicious that we have an overpair. So right now, if we bet, that's going to be consistent. I think we would bet ace king and ace queen, king queen. We'd bet such a large percentage of our range that I do think we have to continue betting with kings. I mean, the reason we bet it with such a wide range is because we do have these premiums that we're going to Cbet here to help protect us. So I bet 2/3. Now, is that sizing okay? I think 2/3 is pretty standard. So I think that works. I think this is 3/4 pot. So I think we probably should have sized it down to maybe about 14 big blinds. I think that would have been a little bit better. We sized it so much now that if he's going to call, I only think he's going to be calling it with his overpairs. I don't think he's going to call with ace high or anything else. His fold to Cbet, especially out of position, 3 out of 8, and that tends to suggest that based on these numbers that he's so tight that he's hardly ever folding because he's caught a piece of the flop. So there's really no draw, so it is just strictly overcards, and the overcards that he has, 9s to aces, and I wouldn't even say we have aces or kings in there. Well, at least not aces, because I think once we raised, I'm going to take kings out too. When we 3-bet, I think most people tend to 4-bet with aces and kings, and probably also ace king suited. So we could probably do some sort of weighting system and say these, 75% chance that he has the ace kings. But I don't think he has aces and kings, which means he's got 9s, 10s, jacks, and queens. So once he calls, I think I'm pretty happy that he has an overpair, and now I'm just kind of hoping for, a 2 or a 4. So I got the 2 of diamonds. That's great. When we look at this, it's all about an overpair. He already called once, so now I'm betting again, hoping to get him to shove on us. Pot is 53. If I bet pot, that's a big bet. That really, I think it's a little bit too much. I bet 40. So I bet again. I bet 3/4 pot again. I think we probably could have just gone a little bit smaller. I probably could have done 30 big blinds. Because again, it's gonna, here I took a shot at it, and then all of a sudden I got called, and now instead of betting big again, I'm betting smaller, almost as if it's a feeble attempt at taking the pot. And he raises all in. This time it works. I mean, it's at this point, I think the only thing he has is an overpair, and we're definitely going to call. I mean, versus those overpair were 95%, so we're calling. But I do think a smaller bet size might get the job done. might get him to come over the top, even with some of his weakest hands. I, of course, call. We see the turn was a 9, and he shows 10s. So I have 10s? Yep, 10s are in his range. So I do think, based on this player, based on this player, his stats, 14-10, suggests that he's coming with a pretty tight range. And then when he called the 3-bet, he also had his range tightened up a little bit. And this board's so dry, and on a player that's tight like this, I don't see him calling with ace king or ace queen, hoping to hit the ace or the king. He's just gonna flat out fold those hands to a C-bet. But when he calls, I know that he has a pocket pair. Could he have 8s? Yeah, he could. I mean, if we put him there, if you put pocket 8s in there, we've got, we'll add the set to it. It reduces our equity down to 85% versus 95%. But I think that's something we have to deal with, because again, 9s, 10s, jacks, and queens are all going to be shoving here, or they normally raise. All right, hope you enjoy these 2 hands. Look tomorrow for a couple more.